Yo everyone, welcome back on this channel. I'm Arden, and today I'm gonna give you guys my ranking for the Alien franchise. Oh my god, guys, I don't want to, but you know, what can I do? Last week I did the Predator franchise, and there are two movies that are the same in this ranking. Although writing the script for it, I am feeling this is gonna be a longer video, so yeah, let's just get started, guys, because I hope I can give you a good video today. I love this series up to a big full. I mean, I like the series a lot, but to say it's one of my favorites, not even close. Really, not even close. Trust me. That being said, yeah, let's just get started, because why not? Coming in number 8, dead last, no surprise, is Alien vs Predator Requiem. Whether it's the Alien series or the Predator series, this is by far the worst one. I already talked about this film when I discussed the Predator series, so I'll just give the highlights here. If you want more information, you can watch the Predator series ranking. Alien vs Predator Requiem feels like a movie that prides itself on just not giving a shit. It doesn't give a shit about good storytelling, it doesn't care about good acting, it doesn't care enough to have its own identity, and it doesn't even care enough to fix its lighting, so you can actually watch the damn movie. This movie is literally unwatchable during the night scenes because you can't see a damn thing. The Strauss brothers need to stick with special effects because this movie, it was a dumpster fire and a new low for the franchise. Coming in number 7, and I'm sorry, but it's Alien 3. I really despise this film. I honestly hoped that Alien vs Predator Requiem just didn't exist, so I could put this movie at the bottom of this list. I mean, granted that film wouldn't exist on principle, but you know, you get the idea. Ripley is the lone survivor yet again, with Newt, Hicks and Bishop killed off in the very beginning, and how the fuck dare you? We were dying to know what happened to those characters, instead of that they kill off the fan favorites in the very beginning. No rhyme, no reason for it, to do it. They just did it. My guess was to bring back the feel of the first film, but none of that works. On the prison planet, we meet a bunch of stock generic prison characters who all look the same, who make it very hard to form a connection with them. The only one that gets some sort of real character is Clemens, played by Charles Dance, and he dies off very early on in the film as well. So why did you even bother with this location? None of these characters are likable, and I don't care if they die. That's not a good thing. However, Ripley is not out of the woods yet, as an alien begins to wreaking havoc on the prisoners. Oh, and she has an alien queen inside of her. You know, what the fuck? Let's examine this. How the hell did an egg abort the Sulaco? Please explain that to me. How the fuck did this egg get there? The only reasonable explanation would be that the queen laid its egg there and at the end of Aliens, but even that doesn't make sense. This sack allowing the queen to lay eggs was destroyed. Also, the queen was hiding in the landing gear of the dropship, not in the locker room of the Sulaco. No matter how you spin it, from the beginning this film makes zero sense, and if there was a facehugger that impregnated a dog, where did this one that impregnated Ripley come from? I don't know, nor do I care, because the writers clearly didn't either. Alien 3 was directed by David Fincher, an enormous talented director who went out to make Girl with the Dragon Tattoo 7 and Gone Girl. He's an amazing talent, and even he hates this film. I will admit that the film is decently shot because of him, but Fincher doesn't even consider Alien 3 to be his movie. He goes out of his way to make sure that Alien 3 isn't even brought up in interviews. He hated to make this movie so much that he even once said, "No one hates Alien 3 more than I do." When the director of a movie hates his own work, people, come over here. You can probably take that as the international sign of run away. I know a lot of people love the shove assemble cut in my face every time they defend this film, but I'm sorry, it doesn't do shit for me. All of it does is giving us more time with the prisoners who drop the F-bomb in every sentence and really don't have anything to them, so why would I care? And even if Fincher was giving full control over this film, I still wouldn't like this film because this script was awful. Coming in number 6 is Alien Covenant. Now, I had really high hopes for this one, and while I was impressed by a lot of it, some things still have much to be desired. It suffered from a couple of problems Prometheus had, only worse. Furthermore, it also revealed some new revelations to the Xenomorphs that were just kind of bizarre. Let's just start with the positives here. The actors were actually quite great. Even Danny McBride, who was normally known for his obnoxious comedy antics, gave a very grounded and realistic performance for his character. It was actually quite impressive to see him do a role like this so well. Michael Fassbender, who played dual roles this time around, was the highlight of the film, although I don't think there was even a doubt of that, but still. The visuals in this movie are outstanding. I mean, really breathtaking. This movie is gorgeous. Ridley Scott's direction was top notch. Just like he did with Alien, this man took every opportunity to build tension and horror every chance he got. However, the good stuff kind of stops there. First and foremost, the way they build up the fate of the Dr. Elizabeth Shaw was beyond pitiful. I loved this character, and knowing that she went out in such a lazy manner was so disappointing. The character in this movie are just dumb. I mean, if you thought the characters in Prometheus were stupid, you were pinning for them in this film. There is one character in particular who was so dumb she looked up a woman in a room she knew damn well wasn't infected, and then like 2 minutes later proceeds to shoot in an area where she knows there is gas. Really? There is stupid and there is death. Catherine Watterson gave a good performance in the role of Daniels, but her character might as well be named Ripley Light. Ridley Scott were so preoccupied trying to make this character so much like Ripley that they forget to give Daniels an identity of her own. She has her husband die in the beginning, a character we never get to meet, and she is sad for like a whole 10 minutes. Oh, and why do they go to this planet instead of like going to the one they were originally scheduled going to? Because they didn't want to go back into cryosleep. They were really too lazy to go back into cryosleep, so they tried to inhabit a planet they knew nothing about. I'm not making jokes here, this is literally what happened. It's such a dumb and lazy excuse. It's hard to believe that John Logan helped write it. But the worst thing about this movie is the reveal of the Xenomorph creation. David, the android of Prometheus, killed the engineers and began experimenting with creating life. He used Dr. Shaw as the first host to create his little monstrosities. So basically what this movie is telling us is that the aliens in a series called Aliens aren't really aliens. Folks, am I the only one who sees the problem here? However, despite its problems, Alien Covenant manages to be entertaining enough to earn its number 6 spot. Believe me, I respect Ridley Scott worthlessly for trying new things with this otherwise dead as a doornail franchise. The rating isn't great, but it has ambition that I do admire wholeheartedly. The characters are stupid, but the acting is pretty damn good. The visuals and scares are well enough to carry the movie, even if it doesn't resort into slasher cliches in one or two scenes. The shower scene, I mean, come on Ridley Scott, I mean, come on, you're really above that, bro. Coming in number 5 is Alien vs Predator. Well, I just talked about this in the Predator video last week, so I will be short on this one as well. Alien vs Predator is a film that, despite its place on this ranking, I've warmed up over the years. I can acknowledge that despite all of its faults, it can be entertaining, and it was made by a director who was clearly trying to make something good. It wasn't just slapped together. An actual effort on Paul Anderson's part went into this film. There is some cool action with aliens and predators. Alexa Woods is a cool protagonist. The actors aren't half bad. However, the only character you do care about is Alexa Woods, because she is the only one who gets an interesting character development. Everyone else is just kind of stalking along for the ride. There are so many leaps in logic from scene to scene, but if you want to see a versus movie that is about 10 times better than it has any right to be, I'd say give this movie a watch, please. Coming in number 4 is Prometheus. Yes, I like Prometheus. Say what you will about it, I know many will, but after Alien 3 and the 2 AVP movies, Prometheus represented a welcome change of pace for the franchise. I mean, that change of pace dropped the ball a bit with Alien Covenant, but you know, I digress. As I said, I don't really consider it an Alien movie per se, but for what it is, it does its job really well. The film takes place years before Alien, as the Whaley Corporation sends a team to investigate the potential of discovering alien life. Instead of focusing on the Xenomorphs from the other films, it instead focuses on the engineers. Remember the space jockey and the chair from Alien? That was an engineer. Prometheus raises some good questions to beliefs of humans' existence and focuses on themes like faith versus knowledge and religion versus science. It is throwing through a proper sci-fi film that in terms of its story does what a science fiction movie should do. It immerses its audience into its world and gradually builds on itself with ideas and intrigue, rather than explosions and fan service. The acting is great, the themes are processable and interesting, and the visuals are spectacular. Even if I'd hated this film, I would watch it just for the visuals. Over the years, I've come across many people who hate this film, and for the most part, it's for one or two reasons. The biggest complaint I hear about this film is how dumb some of the characters are. If I'm being perfectly honest, I have a similar issue with this film. Some of the characters in this film make incredibly dumb decisions. For example, how does the guy who created the mapping equipment get lost? He is a navigator and he gets himself lost? Was that supposed to be ironic? Because it actually felt quite dumb. Aside from Shaw, Vickers, Wayland and David, the characters in Prometheus are very one-note and bland. The second complaint I heard about this movie is that it was advertised as an Alien prequel and it wasn't. I certainly understand the frustrations, as the same thing annoyed me the first time I'm viewing the film. However, it's better not to think of Prometheus as an Alien film. It doesn't set up the first movie and doesn't contain any Xenomorphs. What gets Prometheus through is not being a film in a franchise, but rather its own unique animal. We should actually be grateful of a director Ridley Scott can still make a good sci-fi like this. The story takes center stage. It's a story-driven move that kind of puts most of its central characters on the back burner. It may contain the average of blank characters, but it's an original story and a great piece of filmmaking. We should be glad it exists. Coming number 3, it is, I think, a movie that is getting the most back and forth over the years. That being Alien Resurrection. Now, if you were trying to argue that Alien Covenant is a better movie, I wouldn't argue with you because it technically is. Alien Covenant is a better movie, but upon rewatching, I had a lot more fun with Alien Resurrection, and I would rather watch that again. I don't think everything about it is good, so please halt the hatred in the comment section and give me a few minutes to explain. Alien Resurrection picks up 300 years after Alien 3, where a military operation has cloned Ripley in order to obtain the alien within her. You can basically guess what happens next. The alien queen lays eggs and the aliens emerge on the secret military vessel in space. Now Ripley must team up with a group of space pirates to get off the ship and blow it up before it reaches Earth. I think what really turned me around in this film was watching it back to back with Alien 3. That movie was grim, door, and put a massive beating up my heart, and not in a good way. It was just a depressing experience and I want to forget it the second it was over. Alien Resurrection though was the direct opposite. It was a fun experience that I had no problem experiencing it again, over and over. It brought Ripley back, but it did new things with the character. Here she is a clone, questioning throughout the film who she is and what she is. Cloning process gave her traits of the alien, including engaged strength, agility, and blood hot enough to melt steel. We see a different Ripley than before because technically she is not Ripley, so the changes in her personality make perfect sense. While some of the side characters, Hillard and Distafna, are pretty generic, other characters like Jonah, Carl, Breeze and Christie are a lot of fun to have an adventure with. Ron Perlman is hilarious through this whole movie as Jonah, but it's Ron Perlman, so I would expect nothing less. Brad Dourif is in this film and he's just weird, but on the other hand, look at this scene where Ripley discovers the clone that were attempted before her. She doesn't say a damn word the whole time she is in that room, but her face throughout the scene tells you all you need to know. Fear, confusion, sadness and hatred all in one performance, and even after all that suffering, she shows Red the mercy that he clearly doesn't deserve. That is great acting. As for the action, there is not a ton of it, but there is a great underwater sequence that still holds up despite some outdated CG. And Jean-Pierre Jeunet brings his own style to the picture, much like the three last directors did. Now, as I said, I don't love everything about this film. I still think the movie has some dumb moments sprinkled throughout it, especially in the third act. CGI hasn't aged well in certain shots, and especially if you watch this film on Blu-ray. I love the idea of the newborn. I understand why Ripley would be sympathetic towards it. I mean, it's a newborn that is half human and half alien. Obviously, it doesn't have any real resemblance, and it's on right or wrong like a real child would do. However, the design for it never really did it for me. Rewatching it, it's not an awful design. I just feel they could have done something better than this. It just feels a bit too far removed from the alien design we have actually seen. But then again, alien designer H.R. Geiger loved the design, so what do I know? Michael Wincott introduced this badass leader and then is killed off almost immediately. In a very dumb way. Even when I saw this in high school, I was pissed off with how much his character was wasted. Because he was awesome. Christie's death was absolutely ridiculous. Raymond Cruz, his acting as the Stefan was just awful at sometimes, especially in one deleted scene that I thank God it was actually deleted. Lastly, the third act, while not terrible, feels really rushed, but they had to end the film, so they just threw the climax on the screen praying it would work. I think if they would have spent another 20 minutes off screen time maybe building up the newborn, giving us some more character moments, throwing in another action scene, or even bringing the final battle on Earth, Joss Whedon wanted to do this film would have been better and would have received a much warmer reception. There is a great movie in here somewhere, but it's bogged down by a couple of things that could have either been different or expanded on more. So yeah, Alien Resurrection is not a masterpiece, like, not even close. But however, rewatching it gave me a lot of joy. I had a good time despite the things that didn't work. If you want a visceral experience, you can watch the first two films. If you just want a fun and sometimes cheesy B-movie with the aliens running around, Alien Resurrection is fun for you. Coming in number 2 is Alien. Look, let's not beat around the bush here. Ridley Scott can do whatever he wants with the franchise. After all, he started it. But no matter what entry he makes, and no matter how many times he tries to capture the magic of this horror masterpiece, he never will. Alien remains today my second favorite horror movie of all time, right after Halloween 1978. Many claim that it is technically a science fiction movie. A statement I respectfully disagree with. Aliens is a science fiction movie. Alien is a haunted house in space. It contains sci-fi themes and situations to be sure, but it fuses mainly on claustrophobic horror to scare its audience. Alien sees a group of truckers in space awakened early from their cryogenic stasis to answer a mysterious distress call. They land on a planet only for two other crew members, played by John Hurt, may he rest in peace, to come back on board with some sort of parasite attached to his face. It later comes off and it seemingly dies. However, right before they head back into cryosleep, an alien bursts itself out of one of the crew members' chest. Now, the creature is loose on the ship, growing rapidly and ready to feed on anything on its path. What the alien does so is its ability to make you care about the characters involved. Ridley Scott spends about 45 minutes on character build-up before we even see the alien. Right off the bat, we know this character and can identify with them. So when the alien gets loose, we actually care for their survival. Most horror films these days resort to the same bad cliches, resulting in inferior products that simply aren't scary. Alien doesn't resort on to cheat, thrills, CGI or jump scares, and solely relies on the likability of its characters in its intense claustrophobic atmosphere. The alien design created by H.R. Giger is enough to scare anyone. The fact that this wasn't some random CGI creation and instead a man in a suit only makes the intensive elements feel much more real, because the creature is there on screen. The actors aren't reacting on nothing. The thing is right in front of their eyes. Ridley Scott shots most of the alien scenes in darkness, making it seem like a real creature instead of someone in a suit. But even in the darkest scene, the lighting is so perfect that you can still make out everything happening. This thing can be around any corner, and you never know when it will pop up next. The actors involved are all perfectly cast. John Hurt, Ian Holm, Japhet Kotto, Terry Dean Stanton, Veronica Cartwright, and Tom Skerritt are all wonderful. The film even launched Sigourney Weaver's into stardom, playing the beloved character of Ellen Ripley. It's fun to note that while Ripley has become the iconic heroine of the franchise, that was not the case in the first film. There was no main character here. Every one of the characters got equal screen time, making it harder to deduce who is gonna live and who is gonna die. That's expert filmmaking in my book, and especially compared to other entries in this franchise. Coming number 1 is Aliens. Yeah, right, I know most of you guys saw this coming, but how could it not be? Come on. How could Aliens not top this list? Aliens represents one of the greatest sci-fi action films of all time, as well as the best sequel ever made, period. Not only is it further the story of the first film, it completely switches genre from horror to science fiction, and not once does it feel out of place. The aliens themselves are horrifying as ever, and director James Cameron takes the first film and cranks them amazement up to 10 with intense scenes of drama, action and horror. 57 years after Ripley's incident with aliens, she is found in cryosleep and awakens to find an unknown future. Her daughter was dead, her reputation is in the gutter, not a soul believes her about the alien, and she is left eat the series of horrifying that plague her every night. Unfortunately, the planet from the first film has been long since colonized, and Ripley's former employees have lost contact with the colony. Wanting to face her demons, Ripley reluctantly goes on a mission with a group of space marines into the planet, only to discover that it's crawling with aliens. With little time left, Ripley and the marines must try to escape the planet by any means necessary. Where to even begin with this movie? James Cameron obviously took a note from Ridley Scott's playbook, having the first act focusing on the characters, leading up by the aliens appearing in the second act. Cameron focuses a lot on these characters and makes even the ones who won't last long memorable and likable. Bill Paxton is hilarious as Private Hudson, may he rest in peace, and gets some of the memorable lines in this movie. There is a nice subplot with Ripley not trusting the android Bishop due to the events of the first film. Michael Bennett's Hicks even has some nice moments with Ripley. However, it's really the mother-daughter-like relationship between Ripley and Newt that remains the heart of the film. Many people forget that Ripley wasn't really a badass in the first film. She had the personality of one. Physically, she was no different of other crew members. James Cameron makes Ripley more badass as the movie goes on, as she protects this little girl from Peryland and learns to be a mother once more. This is a character who has been broken and stripped of everything and new to herself as a facing character. A 9-year-old girl who survived for months in a compound with aliens without being captured. God, I hate Alien 3 for killing her. Fuck you. Fuck you! When the aliens do show up, it's in a gloriously creepy and atmospheric setting that puts the Marines in an absolute peril. The scenes of the aliens coming out of nowhere are beautifully shot, and the action is somewhere of the best ever put to film. Cameron never lets up the tension and honestly keeps rising to a climax where Ripley is forced to have a standoff with the bitch herself, the alien queen. Yes, I know none can survive crawling out of an airlock, but here is a newsflash for you. I don't care! It looks badass, I'll allow it. Also, let you not forget about James Horner's epic score. Bishop's countdown still gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. To me, there is no contest. Aliens is the perfect film in every way you can imagine. So, what do you guys think? I hope you guys like this ranking. Please let me know what your ranking is in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. And I see you guys next week. Tot volgende week!